This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices settled at their highest in over a week on Friday after U.S. President Donald Trump ratcheted up pressure against Iran through more sanctions on vessels that transport its oil, and announced an armada was heading towards the Middle Eastern nation. Brent crude futures rose $1.82, or 2.8%, to settle at $65.88 a barrel, the highest since January 14. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude gained $1.71, or 2.9%, at $61.07, also a more than one-week high. Trump's statements renewed warnings to Tehran against killing protesters or restarting its nuclear program. The escalating pressure has caused concerns of oil supply disruptions in the Middle East. Kazakhstan has been struggling to resume output from one of the world's largest oil fields.
Europe is expected to import a record amount of liquefied natural gas this year, with global supply also expected to soar, the International Energy Agency said on Friday. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the European Union has sought to slash its dependence on Russian energy and ramped up imports of LNG from other countries, particularly the United States. Europe is expected to import a record 185 billion cubic meters of LNG in 2026, the IEA's quarterly gas market report showed, up from a previous record 175 BCM in 2025.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
India can leverage its growing energy demand to negotiate better oil and gas supply deals, Oil Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said on Friday, as its refiners continue seeking alternatives to Russian oil. India became the top buyer of discounted Russian seaborne crude after Moscow's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine, but challenges posed by Western sanctions eventually prompted Indian refiners to increase imports from other sources. Indian officials have been careful to avoid directly referencing Russian oil imports, but Puri said supplies from one source that had surged after February 2022 were now easing.
U.S. control of Venezuela's oil exports has ensnared barrels that had been servicing debt to China, lining up another potential showdown between the two superpowers that could further complicate the South American country's path out of default. Around a tenth of Venezuela's $150 billion foreign debt pile is estimated to be loans from China that the OPEC member was paying in oil cargoes, until the U.S. seized Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro earlier this month. Debt experts said the ramifications of China's claim on the cargoes and any clash with the United States could make it tougher for Venezuela to restructure its debt after a 2017 default and put at risk Beijing's cooperation in restructuring deals for other developing nations. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Silver prices rose above $100 an ounce for the first time on Friday, while gold hit another record en route to $5,000 per oz as investors pile into safe haven assets amid geopolitical turmoil and on expectations for U.S. interest rate cuts. Spot silver jumped 5% to $100.94 an ounce by 1848 GMT. Silver should continue to benefit from many of the same forces supporting gold investment demand, said Philip Newman, a director at Metals Focus. Additional support will come from ongoing tariff concerns and still low physical liquidity in the London market.
The Trump administration is taking a 10% stake in USA Rare Earth as part of a $1.6 billion debt and equity investment package aimed at helping the company develop a domestic mine and magnet facility, two sources familiar with the deal told Reuters. The deal and a separate $1 billion private investment will be unveiled on Monday, and Oklahoma-based USA Rare Earth will host a morning conference call with investors to discuss the terms, according to one of the sources who was briefed on the plans. China is the largest global processor of rare earths, a group of 17 minerals used to make a range of electronics and military equipment. The U.S. produces only small volumes of rare earths, which has sparked a push in recent years from Washington to increase output.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Chicago grain and oilseed futures rose on Friday as severe cold in the US and other areas of the world raised fears about damage to crops and disruptions to processing plants. Large corn sales kept the focus on the brisk export pace of that commodity, according to Jim McCormick, co-founder of agmarket.net. The bitter cold temperatures in the US have also affected markets for soybeans and corn, said McCormick, as processing plants slow down, causing a spike in futures for products such as soy meal.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.